Oh, a doctor. He's in a bad way. Transfusion, quickly. Give me an airway, no? Lucky I was passing. Another couple of minutes, he'd have bled to death.
What do you think, Alistair?
God knows. If she hadn't lost a kidney already.
A transplant?
There's always that possibility, yes.
Well, then why don't you go ahead?
The problem with spare parts surgery, you know, is that there isn't a main dealer as with cars. Yet it bothers you, Victor. We've a whole hospital full of critically ill people here. We'll do our best for this one as for all the others.
Emergency, emergency. Dr. Ainsworth to casualty immediately.
Emergency, old son.
Dr. Ainsworth to casualty.
They're calling for you at casualty.
Right, help me get him ready.
How much blood has he lost then? Any idea?
It could be 3 pints. I was there just in time. The main artery in the right leg is severed. I took some blood for cross-matching.
And the head injuries?
It's pretty bad. Open fracture of the skull, some bone fragmentation. You can see the brain.
Get 3 pints cross-matched as soon as possible, please. Better get cleaned up yourself, hadn't you?
Thanks. You be Dr.
Ainsworth, Victor Ainsworth.
Ian Moody.
Oh, glad you were there when it counted, Dr. Moody.
Ian,
Alistair.
what the love of Mike?
Of course, I'd forgotten this was your pack.
What are you doing here?
How are you?
Fine, fine.
You wouldn't have a spare shirt knocking about, would you?
God almighty, what am I supposed to do about this? Where's Dr. McKinley, Lenny?
Emergency and paediatric, Dr. Ainsworth, but I put out a call.
I'm going to need him. The drip's not working properly.
It seems he's an organ donor, Doctor. Shall I notify registry?
What?
The patient. There's a card among his effects to say that in the case of sudden death, he authorizes the removal of organs for transplant.
Pity's sake, the tube must be blocked. Get me a replacement, Lenny. A replacement, girl, move!
They've given up all thoughts of going abroad, eh, Alistair?
Well, the state still beckons from time to time, you know.
The siren song of the dollar. We've all heard that.
Dollars by research as well as Gatsby Mansions on Long Island, Ian. As one with a particular interest in the renal field.
As one of the leading figures in the renal field.
Well, anyway, I'd like to spend a few years trying to develop an artificial kidney. A proper one, that's to say, for implantation. None of your exteriorized nonsense.
Artificial kidney for implantation? That's a tall order, isn't it?
No, we don't know yet. The cardiac boys are fast coming around with the idea of a pump which could be slotted into the chest to replace the diseased heart, you know. Better than the transplant, they say, because you couldn't have rejection problems. And there could hardly be a crisis of organ supply. That's the worst thing of all at the moment. Now, we've a girl upstairs right now who's going to die simply because we can't raise a kidney for her.
Just too late, I'm afraid, McKinley. Didn't stand a chance. Not with head injuries like this. You didn't win, I'm afraid. Didn't you? Clean up in here, will you?
Feel like some tea before you go?
Tea? I could force down something stronger. Purely medicinal, of course.
Yes, I'm sure.
Alistair, that accident case just died. He was carrying an organ donor's card. You can go ahead with Ruth Marlowe.
What,
Ruth Marlowe, Alistair, the transplant. I've removed the kidneys. The tissue type's compatible, the blood
Yes,
group matches everything.
I'll give you a ring.
We'll have dinner tonight,
Fine,
yes?
I'd like that.
Poor devil. Still, as long as some good comes of it. He never had a chance, you know. Not with head injuries like that. Not a chance in the world.
And the young woman who received the kidney transplant died too.
Yes. Yes, that was particularly tragic. Alistair Coates did his best, of course, but by the time he got to operate, Ruth Marlowe was too weak to withstand major surgery. So the whole damned exercise was pointless. However, there's one thing I must make completely clear to you, Miss Peterson. That man, they're now saying that I killed. He was dead at the time I removed his kidneys. I know it. He was dead.
And there's clear testimony from the nurse, Renal Maxwell, that later he revived.
Signs of life returned and persisted for some 20 minutes. But that's rather a different thing from reviving, you know. Brain death had occurred. With head injuries such as he had, any kind of genuine resuscitation would have been out of the question.
You appreciate the court will want to go into that very thoroughly. Are you all right, Mrs. Ainsworth?
I'm perfectly all right, thank you.
Would you like some tea? I can easily...
Quite all right. It's simply that it's very upsetting for me, something like this. Victor's career is at stake. Everything one's lived
Dear
for.
Aisling, you never could resist overstatement. One's bankroll in jeopardy again. That's all she means.
I beg your pardon?
My wife's paying, Miss Peterson. Didn't you know? Oh, yes. Unhappily, I haven't been much of a success in my chosen profession, so we depend for our little luxuries on my wife's power to provide.
Victor, please.
My father left a nicely set up, of course, Harley Street premises in his time, a clientele of movie stars and oil sheiks. Money, Miss Peterson. She really does deserve to be told if defending me is going to be an investment for her or just another write-off.
It's fairly unusual for a medical man to be charged with manslaughter, Dr. Ainsworth. The prosecution has to prove criminal negligence.
No one can prove that against me. Good heavens. I might have made an error of judgment, but what else?
You did remove that man's kidneys almost the moment you thought death had occurred. Wouldn't it have been wiser to have waited a while?
Organs for transplant must be removed as soon as possible after physical death. And young Ruth Marlowe's condition was critical. You've got to remember that.
Ruth Marlowe, yes. She wasn't your patient, was she?
No. Alistair Coates.
Yet you seem to have had a great personal concern for her.
Well, that's the sort of thing that happens in hospital. Concern's communal. One gets to know about other people's cases, gets involved in spite of oneself.
Dr. Ainsworth, Clitheroe Street Hospital has a house rule requiring certification of death by 2 doctors before organs may be removed for transplant. It's possible that very soon the law itself will require the same rule. Yet you didn't abide by it, did you?
Technically, I was at fault, but I knew Dr. McKinley was on his way to the theatre, and I took it for granted that was as good as a second certification. Anyway, I knew I had to be quick.
A second certification before you removed the kidneys would have established the appearances of death beyond all possible doubt, in which case the prosecution would not now be able to claim that by acting so swiftly you displayed recklessness.
Are you going to take my case, Miss Peterson? Or do you believe I'm the sort of doctor who would deliberately kill off one patient in the wild hope that it would help another to live?
You're a vision, a veritable vision.
Now, I've just finished my face. Help yourself to a drink.
It's a poor substitute.
There's some malt whiskey.
Ah.
Did you remember to get the tickets?
Would I forget?
Yes.
It's a 7:30 curtain, so get your skates on.
I've been reading about you this afternoon.
About me? Where?
The depositions in the Ainsworth case. My junior did the committal. You didn't tell me you were testifying for the prosecution.
Oh, I was going to tell you all about it this evening. They want the medical background up to the time Ainsworth got his hands on the poor beggar.
Don't tell me any more.
Why not?
I've taken on the defense.
You're not serious.
Perfectly.
Are you under some crazy delusion that Ainsworth is innocent?
Ian, you know how I work better than that.
Harriet, I was there. I looked after the man till the ambulance came. I went with him to the hospital. That man should not have died the way he did, and certainly not as soon as he did.
Opinion.
Statement of fact.
The court will decide what is fact and what isn't.
Ainsworth couldn't have done his job properly. He's lucky he's only facing a manslaughter charge. He could have been had for murder.
That's an emotional judgment.
What the hell do you mean by that?
You used your medical skill on that accident victim, so naturally you have to think Ainsworth lost the life you saved.
Vanity? Is that what you're saying?
Ian, I don't want to talk about it.
Well, I do.
Happened to our vow never to talk shop.
You've just moved yourself fairly and squarely into my shop. When you knew I was to be a prosecution witness, you shouldn't have accepted the brief.
Well, normally I wouldn't have, but we're under pressure at Chambers. With James leaving so suddenly, we had to spread the load. Anyway, you can't seriously expect me to let personal considerations affect my professional life.
Especially when there's a fat fee involved.
Will you help me on with my cloak, please? Well, are we going to the theatre? Or aren't we?
You are Lenore Martha Maxwell, and you are employed as a nurse at Clitheroe Street Hospital.
Yes, that's correct.
Were you on duty in the casualty department of that hospital on the afternoon of May the 24th last?
I was.
Now, would you tell the court of an incident that happened that day involving the victim of a road accident, who the court has already heard had suffered multiple injuries, including an open fracture of the skull and serious bone fragmentation?
Yes. Dr. Ainsworth, the accused, that is, was the roster surgeon for the day. And as soon as the patient was admitted, I sounded the alarm for him.
Yes?
Dr. McKinley, who was also on roster, had been called to another part of the hospital, so I sent out a signal for him too.
Harriet.
Should we be talking today? I think we ought to observe some professional distance. Anyway, the more important question is, are we talking?
Of course we're talking. We're mature adults, aren't we?
Some of your invective last night bordered on the adolescent.
You had one or two choice things to say about me.
And I showed remarkable restraint. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Harriet,
What?
good luck.
We can't both be lucky.
I see, Miss Maxwell. So Dr. Ainsworth told you that the tube which fed blood to the patient had clogged up and asked you to procure a replacement. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Now, did you do that?
Yes.
Now, how long did it take you?
I don't know. 5 or 6 minutes. 10, perhaps.
10 minutes. So for 10 long minutes, while a man lay struggling for his life, you were absent, fetching a replacement tube.
Well, Dr. Ainsworth told me to get it, so I had to do what he said. There wasn't one in the theatre annex. I had to go to stores.
Is this the normal thing to do in the situation?
What?
Have you ever before known a feed tube to clog up whilst blood transfusion was in progress?
Yes.
Now, what did the doctor do on that occasion?
Well, it doesn't happen much, of course, because of the anticoagulant that's added to the blood when it's stored. But if it does, the usual procedure is just to detach the tube for a few minutes, clean it through, and put it back.
But Dr. Ainsworth did not do that.
No.
Instead, he asked you to get a replacement tube, thereby sending you away for 10 minutes. And when you returned, it appeared that the patient had died, and Dr. Ainsworth was already removing his kidneys for transplant.
Yes.
I see. Now, Miss Maxwell, when you were cleaning up the emergency theatre afterwards, did you remove from its clamp the blood transfusion equipment?
Yes.
Was there anything you noticed about it?
Well, that feed tube, the one Dr. Ainsworth had complained about.
Yes.
Must say, it seemed all right to me.
Did you examine the tube?
Yes.
And what did you find?
Well, no signs of clogging. None whatever. And while I was wondering about that, the patient, I mean that man on the table, the man I'd been told was dead.
Demonstrated that someone might have been over-anxious to certify his death.
My lord, I object. That is a totally unjustified comment.
Yes, Mr. Stenhope. I'm surprised at you. We really mustn't descend to such tactics.
I apologize, my lord. No further questions.
Miss Maxwell, you have told us that when you were cleaning up in the emergency theatre, you examined the feed tube and that it showed no sign of clogging. But did it also show no sign of having been cleaned through?
I'm sorry?
Did you examine the feed tube to see if the blockage had been cleared at some point?
No. No, I didn't do that. You wouldn't be able to tell anyway.
Exactly. Thank you. And did you by any chance notice the level of blood in the bottle supplying the patient, both before you left the theatre and after you returned to it?
What?
The level of blood in the bottle supplying the patient, Miss Maxwell. Obviously, if transfusion had ceased during your absence, the level of blood would not have altered. Did you notice if it was the same or if it had decreased?
I'm afraid I didn't notice anything like that.
Of course you didn't, Miss Maxwell. Thank you. That is all.
So in your view, Dr. Moody, the accident victim had lost some 3 pints of blood before the ambulance arrived.
Something of that order, yes.
I see. Now, may we be told how much blood the human circulatory system normally requires for efficient functioning?
About 8 pints. It varies with the individual.
But in the case of the accident victim, the need for replacement blood was critical.
Absolutely. And for continuing transfusion. The outflow is so fast after main artery severance that a man can bleed to death in a matter of minutes. And, of course, the patient's head injuries were gross.
Now, Doctor, from your examination of the patient, would you have said at any point that he stood no chance whatever of recovery?
Well, all I can say with complete confidence is that I think the man should have lived rather longer than he did.
You'd say that?
Yes.
Now, why exactly?
Under emergency theatre conditions, it should have been possible to close off the severed artery almost at once. That means that the blood flow would have been contained. As for the head injuries, well, no doubt expert advice would have been required there. But had all usual measures been taken, I see no reason why the patient should not have lived, at least until a brain specialist could be fetched to recommend further treatment.
And the end result of such further treatment, again, in your view?
Well, who can tell? Arguably a bit tragic. If the patient had in fact survived, I think it likely he would have been a vegetable.
Dr. Moody, have you in the course of your career come across doctors who do not believe a vegetable existence to be worth preserving? Doctors who would even prefer that such patients perished, particularly if they possess healthy organs which might be used to aid the chronically sick.
My lord, I fail to see the point of this question. It would seem to be couched in deceptively general terms.
I think it is admissible, Miss Peterson. They are not sure it's relevant. You may continue, Mr. Stanhope.
Thank you, my lord. Doctor?
Well, I can't speak for individuals, of course. But as far as I'm aware, it is still the view of the medical profession as a whole that it is a doctor's business to do everything in his power to save his patient's life, never to make choices.
Thank you, Dr. Moody.
Dr. Moody, these head injuries the accident victim sustained, you have described them as gross.
Yes.
How gross, exactly? Can you tell us more about that?
I don't know what you mean. Do you want precise dimensions, technical details?
The brain was exposed, didn't you say?
Yes.
Was there damage to the cerebellum?
I thought there might have been, yes.
Dr. Moody, in your opinion, how long can a human being really be expected to live when the brain is exposed and there is damage to the cerebellum?
I only said there might have been damage to the cerebellum. It would have taken a brain specialist to be sure. Your question simply can't be answered. 5 minutes, 5 years, it all depends on what is done for the patient.
Then your inference is it not, that Dr. Ainsworth's treatment must have been defective? Because a man whose lease on life had plainly run out did not survive to pursue a vegetable existence for another 5 minutes or another 5 years.
I did not infer
What
anything
is the
about...
definition of death, Dr. Moody?
Definition?
Yes, the definition of death. There's some debate about it in the medical profession at the present time, is there not? It's beginning to be accepted that brain death may be the criterion, although certain other vital activities may remain.
That may be so, but in this
Did
case...
you go into the emergency theatre with Dr. Ainsworth on May the 24th?
Of course not.
Why not?
One doesn't do that sort of thing. I wasn't remotely connected with Clitheroe Street Hospital.
And my dear doctor, how can you possibly know what problems Dr. Ainsworth encountered? And whether brain death had or had not occurred by the time he began treating his patient? I put it to you, Dr. Moody, you are speaking from ignorance and prejudice. You seem to be reluctant to accept the fact that having failed to save one human life, Dr. Ainsworth immediately and automatically did everything in his power to save another, whilst you merely washed your hands and tidied your clothes.
Miss Peterson, on May the 24th last, I gave first aid to the deceased. I saw his injuries. Now, I'm giving it to this court as my considered professional opinion that had all usual emergency treatment procedures been carried out and blood transfusion properly maintained, that man should not have died as soon as he did. Now, you will not sway me from that. You won't.
I see. Thank you, Dr. Moody, that is all.
I have no re-examination of this witness, my lord.
You do your job well, Harriet. I'll say that for you. That's not really for me to say, is it? All I do is wash my hands and tidy my clothes while the important things happen elsewhere.
Ian, you must understand that whatever line I take in court is solely in the interests of my client, nothing more.
Yes. And if it were your own son standing in the witness box, you'd still carve him up, wouldn't you?
If necessary, yes.
Miss Peterson. I trust you'll forgive this late call.
That's all right, Mrs. Ainsworth.
But I was told you often work late. It was one of the first things I learned about you. Oh, yes. I had you pretty thoroughly investigated before I advised Victor to put his defense in your hands. I thought that wise. We must know where we are at all times. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do.
Now, I know where I am at this moment precisely. But I can't help a tiny worry about you. You trod very lightly with that witness in court today, Dr. Moody. You let him win. Get the best of it, when you should have destroyed his testimony, every word, without mercy. Now, you let him win because he is the man you are involved with. Oh, I knew about the relationship. Naturally enough, I even allowed there would be certain difficulties. But not what we saw in court today. A cowardly backing down. I trust you won't do that again.
Mrs.
Now, my
Ainsworth.
husband was right when he said I hold the purse strings. So he says, well, you know what I think of your performance as it develops.
Holding the purse strings may give you the right to question my handling of the case, Mrs. Ainsworth. Your purse strings, however, do not give you the right to examine my private life. If you're dissatisfied with my performance in court, I suggest you consult another barrister.
Oh, it hasn't come to that as yet, Miss Peterson. But there are priorities. Now, if there is to be no scandal, you must win every point, every time.
Scandal? What scandal? Apart from the one we have on our hands already.
Well, you've seen how my husband resents me, my position. I'm simply afraid that under
If you come here
stress...
to complain about your husband, then you're in the wrong place.
What do you know of the background of my marriage?
Nothing. And frankly, I prefer to keep it that way.
But it's important that you know. When I married Victor, he was one of the up-and-coming men. But all that early promise came to nothing. Victor is a failure. Before he died, my father was ashamed of my marriage. My father, Sir Adrian O'Leary, one of the most distinguished surgeons of our times. A fine man. An honored name. And Victor could make a difference to all that. He could drag that name in the mud, so it is necessary to stop him. You must win this case, Miss Peterson. Win it.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Alistair Hartston Coates, MD, Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons, and you are the renal consultant at Clitheroe Street Hospital?
I am, and all that is correct.
Mr. Coates, I'd like in the first place to ask you some questions concerning a recent patient of yours at Clitheroe Street, Ruth Marlowe.
Ruth Marlowe, yes. That was a young woman who was admitted to my department on May the 3rd last, suffering from severe kidney disorders. It was discovered that one kidney was in fact cancerous, and this was surgically removed on May the 12th. For a while, Miss Marlowe appeared to rally, but then there was once again a deterioration in her condition, and this time it was found that the remaining kidney was infected with pyelonephritis.
Could you explain that technical term, please?
Pyelonephritis is a disease which in its acute stage impairs kidney function and can lead to death from uremia. It was extraordinarily bad luck for Miss Marlowe, of course, but we couldn't halt the progress of the infection, and by May the 22nd, she was dependent on frequent sessions on the artificial kidney machine for simple survival.
Was there no other form of treatment open to you?
There remained the possibility of a kidney transplant, but of course, Miss Marlowe was in an extremely weak condition, and in any case, no kidney was available.
I see. Now, could you tell the court if you're acquainted with the accused in this case, Dr. Victor Ainsworth?
Yes. Oh, yes, I've known Dr. Ainsworth as long as he's been at Clitheroe Street, some 7 years now.
On May the 24th, did Dr. Ainsworth approach you with a certain piece of information?
He did. At about 3 p.m., he came into the locker room where I happened to be and told me that an accident victim had just died in casualty. Dr. Ainsworth seemed in a heightened state of mind. He said the dead man was carrying an organ donor's card and that he'd removed both kidneys. The card had given details of tissue type suggesting a compatibility with Ruth Marlowe. This proved correct.
Dr. Ainsworth had removed the kidneys himself.
Yes.
But is that usual in such a case? You were the renal consultant. Would it not have been more fitting for him to have sent for you so that you might remove the kidneys?
One would have expected something like that, yes, but then, of course, I knew that Dr. Ainsworth was concerned for Ruth Marlowe, and it's certainly important to remove kidneys for transplant as soon as possible after death has occurred.
You say Dr. Ainsworth was concerned for Ruth Marlowe?
Oh, yes, very concerned.
But she was not his patient, was she?
Well, no, but I frequently found him in the side ward assigned to Miss Marlowe, and once he even said to me...
Yes, Mr. Kurtz?
Something to the effect that we must save this girl, Alistair. I couldn't bear it if she died.
We must save this girl. I couldn't bear it if she died. I see. Now, did you in fact attempt a transplant operation, Mr. Kurtz, on Ruth Marlowe on May the 24th?
I did, yes.
Was it successful?
Unfortunately, no. In the consecrated medical phrase, the operation was a great success, but the patient died. Miss Marlowe was simply in too weak a condition to withstand major surgery. She survived the operation by only a matter of hours. We were all most upset, naturally.
Dr. Ainsworth?
He was in tears.
In tears?
Yes, at first he had asked me if he could help, with the surgery, but I considered him somehow or other too involved to be an efficient member of the team. Apparently that was a correct judgment. After Ruth Marlowe died, it seems he even took on responsibility for her interment.
What was that you just said, Mr. Kurtz? Dr. Ainsworth took on responsibility for her interment?
Well, yes. There was no next of kin. So it seemed, and Dr. Ainsworth said he'd see to everything himself. But isn't that generally known? Oh, I thought it would be common knowledge.
Dr. Ainsworth, it's extremely bad policy to let your counsel go into court insufficiently briefed. Hadn't we better alter that state of affairs while there's still some point to it? Sit down. Coates's testimony took even Stanhope by surprise, but he'll now be able to call the relevant witnesses. Did you arrange for the interment of Ruth Marlowe?
Well, yes, as it happens, I did.
Out of your own pocket?
Yes.
Why?
It was just something that had to be done. There was no next of kin. It would have meant a pauper's burial otherwise.
It seems a lot to do for someone you simply felt sorry for.
I wouldn't say that.
Stanhope will. And Stanhope will keep hammering at you until he gets you to say a great deal more. Well, surely his line of attack is clear to you. He wants to show that you didn't work hard enough to keep that man alive because you needed one of his kidneys for a very special reason. Ruth Marlowe.
That's ridiculous. Ruth Marlowe had nothing whatever to do with me. She was just a patient in a pitiable condition.
So pitiable that you were often to be found in her ward during her illness and even shed tears for her after her death?
Why not?
Now listen to me, Dr. Ainsworth. I'm going to have to put you on the stand very shortly in your own defense. I can't avoid it. Unless the jury hear from you direct and form a judgment about you, you won't stand a chance. But the minute I do put you on the stand, Stanhope can do what he likes with you.
I'm not afraid of that.
Then you're a fool. He's renowned for his cross-examination tactics.
Well, it shouldn't have happened like this. I asked them in registry not to tell anyone I was seeing to Ruth Marlowe's interment.
Then you tried to act secretly where she was concerned. Your marriage is a bit of a mess, isn't it, Dr. Ainsworth?
What?
Well, isn't it? You've made no secret of it from that first day in chambers. And the other night, your wife came to see me. That's right.
Why?
I'm still not entirely sure. Something to do with the necessity of avoiding scandal. And how, if I didn't save you, you could drag her family name in the mud.
Some things never change, do they? British climate, Harley Street fees, and my wife. That bloody family of hers. It wasn't Aisling I married, you know. It was her family.
Why did you marry her?
The answer to that's very simple, Miss Peterson. Money. Aisling married me because for a brief moment her father, the great O'Leary, thought well of me. He was accustomed to pontificating about people. I was one of his rare errors of judgment. When the mistake was discovered, quite early on in our marriage, why? There was nothing that could be done. Not in that family. No divorce.
I see.
Only money, of which I was doled out a good deal, on the understanding that I should never, under any conditions, drag the family name in the mud.
How could you live like that?
It was a choice, and a reasonable one. I was hard up, had expensive tastes. Many of my fellow failures would say I'd made a laudable decision.
And how many would have had the self-discipline to keep their side of the bargain, Dr. Ainsworth? For what? 20-odd years, is it?
Now, let's get two things straight, Miss Peterson. First, I had no connection with Ruth Marlowe. No connection. And secondly, if you want to give up my case even now, well, I'm sure that my wife will still find a way of keeping her family name out of the mud.
So at this point, Dr. Ainsworth, you considered your patient dead. There was absolutely no doubt in your mind.
None whatsoever. Respiration had ceased, and even though I applied resuscitative techniques, I couldn't bring him back to life again. I had done everything else in my power. As I've explained, I did clean through the blocked feed tube and continue transfusion while Lenny, Miss Maxwell, was away. In the event, it wasn't of any help. The patient was far too badly injured to respond.
After respiration has ceased, how long is it normally before a patient must be considered dead?
Well, generally, it's a matter of minutes. Deoxygenation of the brain occurs, and that's the end.
In this case, of course, there is the disturbing fact that the patient revived, or appeared to revive, a short time later. Does that make you think today that you made a serious error?
I don't want to evade responsibility. But I think it's worth saying that this kind of revival is the sort of thing that happens more frequently than the public realizes.
What do you mean by that, Dr. Ainsworth?
Well, certain complex and detailed reactions aren't unusual in corpses. But they're just muscular spasms, vegetative processes. In the case under consideration, I'm prepared to agree that the reactions were rather more dramatic than they usually are. But there's nothing to say that they were different in kind.
Then you are maintaining that you made no genuine mistake in considering your patient dead on May the 24th.
I know that most doctors in my position would have done exactly the same thing.
Dr. Ainsworth, is there a house rule at Clitheroe Street Hospital to the effect that before organs may be removed for transplant, death must be certified by 2 doctors?
Yes. Yes, there is such a rule.
Yet in this case, it seems you did, in fact, remove the patient's kidneys without first getting a certification from your colleague, Dr. McKinley.
I may well have been at fault there. Yes, I admit it. But the rule requiring 2 doctors to certify seems to imply that the opinion of one doctor is unreliable. And in some cases, it can cause intolerable delays, ruling out the likelihood of a transplant.
But the rule exists, does it not, to prevent what happened on May the 24th? The removal of organs from a body in which there are still signs of life.
Signs of life is a very different thing from life. In cardiac transplants, you know, they like to be able to take the heart from a donor while it is still beating. Well, they'd hardly do that if the patient wasn't medically dead. Brain death is the only criterion, nothing else.
Did you perhaps have a particular reason for removing the kidney so quickly from your dead patient?
Well, yes. Yes, it's true that I did. He was carrying an organ donor's card. And we had a girl upstairs dying because no replacement kidney was available. Ruth Marlowe.
Dr. Ainsworth, was there any special connection between you and Ruth Marlowe?
Special connection? What do you mean by that?
Did you know her other than as a patient? Was she a friend, perhaps?
I was deeply sorry for her. A young girl afflicted in that way. I found it intensely moving.
But there was no particular relationship between you.
No, of course not.
It's been testified that you often visited her sickbed and that after her death you were reduced to tears.
Yes, that is so.
It's also been testified you arranged for her interment.
Yes.
Why, Dr. Ainsworth?
Some things aren't easy to explain. There was no next of kin. It seemed to me tragic that, having borne her illness alone, Ruth Marlowe should also have been alone in death. Perhaps you think that's silly and sentimental, but there it is. From the beginning, as a doctor, one is warned against over-identification. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes it just does.
Thank you, Dr. Ainsworth. That is all.
So, Dr. Ainsworth, on May the 24th, in the emergency theatre, respiration ceased in the patient under your care there. You applied resuscitative techniques without success, and within measurable time, brain death had occurred.
Yes, that's precisely the way it all happened.
What resuscitative techniques did you apply exactly?
Oxygen, and then when that didn't have any effect, chest massage.
Manually?
Yes.
Did you consider the resuscitator?
It was already in use. Anyway, I didn't really have time for that.
The patient died very quickly.
Unhappily, yes.
Unhappily indeed. For when you come right down to it, we have only your word for the whole history of events.
I beg your pardon?
I say we have only your word for everything that happened, Doctor. You were alone throughout. Dr. McKinley, your colleague, had been sent for but had not yet arrived. And you'd sent the nurse away.
Not sent her away. Merely told her to get a replacement feed tube for the one that was clogged.
Yes, yes. Now, why that exactly?
Why?
Did you not appreciate it might take Miss Maxwell anything up to 10 minutes to fetch a replacement tube? 10 minutes in which her help might be sorely needed.
No, it didn't occur to me.
Why did you not detach the existing tube and clean it through? That's standard practice, is it not?
I couldn't risk it in this case. The patient had lost an enormous amount of blood. Transfusion had to be kept up all the time.
But surely if the tube was clogged, it was impossible to maintain transfusion in any case.
Not entirely, no. By agitating the tube, I could manage to get a sufficient flow. Later, as I've testified, I did remove the tube and cleanse it. But that was only after I'd realized that even constant transfusion wasn't helping the patient and only a miracle could save him.
But the miracle did not occur, did it, Doctor? The patient died.
Yes.
Died. Only to revive some 30 minutes later after you'd removed his kidneys.
He didn't revive, merely exhibited certain reactions.
Yes, yes, muscular spasms and vegetative processes, I think you called them. Yet the only other doctor to have seen your patient, Dr. Moody, felt very strongly that he might be capable of a return to full life, at least until specialist attention could be fetched.
That's Dr. Moody's opinion. I saw the patient under clinically more favorable conditions and from the beginning gave him very little chance. Even Dr. Moody admits that had he survived, he would probably only have been a vegetable.
And a vegetable existence is not worth preserving?
My lord, I object. Once again, the prosecution is venturing into generalities which only obscure the central issue.
I'm not so sure about that, Miss Peterson. Nonetheless, Mr. Stanhope, if you wish to probe the witness's attitudes in this matter, I think you might ask him more direct questions.
Thank you, my lord. I will return to it. Dr. Ainsworth, you've already admitted, have you not, that by failing to get a second certification of death before removing your patient's kidneys, you were guilty of a breach of the hospital rules.
Yes, I fear I was at fault there. But of course, as I've explained, I was anxious to avoid a delay.
Delay in a hospital like Clitheroe Street with doctors on tap, so to speak?
Not on tap. I was alone in the emergency theatre. Dr. McKinley was elsewhere. I wasn't to know who else was around.
Mr. Coates, the renal consultant, was there. You'd spoken to him a few moments before. And since he was to be most concerned, surely you might have sent for him.
I honestly didn't have the time. Organs for transplant must be removed as soon as possible after physical death. Mr. Coates might have been anywhere by then. He might have even left the hospital.
My dear Dr. Ainsworth, if he'd left the hospital, what on earth was the point of removing the kidneys? Who was to perform the transplant operation on Miss Marlowe, if not Mr. Coates? Is it not the truth, Doctor, that you knew perfectly well Mr. Coates was in the hospital, but you did not want anyone else to certify the death of your patient? for fear it should emerge he was not reliably dead after all.
No.
No, Dr. Ainsworth?
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
had every reason to want your patient dead, had you not? He had healthy kidneys, and someone you cared very strongly about was dying for want of a transplant.
I did not care very strongly for Ruth Marlowe. I was merely sorry for her.
Yes, yes. Constant visits to her sickbed, tears after her death, responsibility for her interment. Are you seriously asking me to believe that that is merely feeling sorry for someone?
Why? Can't you believe it?
No, I can't, Dr. Ainsworth. I'm far too worldly wise. Most men would not have done so much for a friend as you appear to have done for Ruth Marlowe, not even for a very dear friend.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Mean by what, Doctor?
By saying that Ruth Marlowe was a dear friend
I said nothing
mine?
of the sort. I simply said that most men would not have done so much for a friend as you appear to have done for a perfect stranger.
You know what I mean. Are you trying to insinuate that that girl, that child was my
Yes, Dr. Ainsworth?
my mistress?
Was Ruth Marlowe your mistress?
Ruth Marlowe was my daughter. Child of the shadows. You'll forgive the Victorian expression. Brought up secretly. To gratify the prejudices of the very Victorian people who provided both me and her with the means of life. Without them ever knowing the truth, of course. Had they learned that? Why? They might have cut me off from my creature comforts, and I couldn't have endured that since I'm a coward. So, when in due time they observed what they took to be irregularities, I let them think what they wanted to. Ruth's natural mother never cared much for her. She disappeared years ago. And then, by one of those terrible ironies, Ruth got ill and came to Clitheroe Street. Naturally, I felt I should be able to do something for her at long last. More than I'd done in the past. That man in the emergency theatre. He was dead, you know. With brain injuries like that, it could only ever have been a vegetable. What was the sense, the point in calling that a life? I didn't kill him. I just let him die. I told Miss Maxwell to get the replacement feed tube because it was genuinely needed. But then, after she'd gone, why keep up the transfusion? He was a dead man. With head injuries like that, he was dead. And Ruth still had a chance of life. Deserved it. From me.
No further questions. Harriet. Well, it wasn't as bad as it might have been. 3 years is... Well, he might have been sent down for much longer than that.
I know that, George.
By the way, shouldn't we have lunch together one of these days? Seems ages since we did.
I'd like that.
Shall I ring you then?
Please.
Splendid. Yes, fine. I'm sorry I had to do it the hard way in there today, you know. One always is.
Let's go and have that drink.